The waiter. She stirred her coffee again. She didn't know why. The sugar had long since dissolved. But she needed to do something with her hands. So it was either stir her coffee or play with her phone. And her phone was part of the problem. Its stubborn refusal to bleep just reminded her of the loneliness she was mired in. She was aware of the waiter loitering around her table. He'd been back and forth, to and fro, buzzing around her like a wasp around the sticky dried fruit in the marketplace in town. But whereas the wasps were brave enough to land on their prey, the waiter seemed nervous, unsure of his next move. He was a handsome young man, tall, lithe, with clear skin. It looked like butter wouldn't melt in his mouth, but many women would melt in his eyes. She wished he'd make a move or buzz off. She circled the spoon again, watching the liquid swirl around. She wanted to dive into that maelstrom and just disappear. This damn holiday. It had meant to be about restarting, about discovering herself. But she wasn't sure she liked the self she'd discovered. She really should go back to her room and then go out and explore the town. But the crowds of people further reinforced the fact that she was alone. She thought of him. He wouldn't be alone now. He'd be waking up next to her, the woman he'd been promising to leave for 6 years. 6 wasted years of broken promises of better tomorrows. But as her mother had always told her, tomorrow never came. The waiter was still finding 100 things to do at the next table. It would be the cleanest table in the whole restaurant. Are you finished with this? She jumped at his voice. He was pointing to her breakfast plate. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. His English was good, but the accent was thick, swarthy. She smiled at him. It was okay. I was miles away. You have very pretty eyes. She laughed. Such a corny line and so direct. But at least he'd stopped beating around the bush. How about we meet for coffee? I finish at 11. Again, direct and to the point. Oh, how cliched was this? A waiter in a hotel hitting on a middle-aged single female tourist. She should say no. Of course she should. She knew the story already. She'd read it 100 times in soppy novels while waiting for him to leave her. The waiter was just after her money. A few days taking advantage of a lonely woman before moving on. A prostitute of sorts. So she'd say no. Be flattered by the interest, but be sensible and act her age. That would be lovely, she said. She looked surprised at her own words, but they were like a pressure release valve. She felt her forehead uncrease and her shoulders relax. He smiled, and she was glad she was sitting down.